like to call to order the Milan Area Schools Board of Education regular meeting for Wednesday, September 25th, 2024. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you to everyone attending this evening as well as watching the recording. All board members are present except for Ms. Murray. She is excused. We will start with communications and community engagement with public comment. A reminder, this meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public meeting. There are 2 times for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. When addressing the board, you will be asked to state your name. The board determines the amount of time granted to individuals or groups to speak. Each person shall be allowed to speak for up to 3 minutes. Board members may question speakers but are not obligated to answer questions or make statements or commitments in response to issues raised by the public. In general, such items will be referred to the superintendent for advisement, investigation, study, and/or recommendation or designated as future agenda items for board consideration. Are there any students who'd like to address the board? Are there any public members who'd like to address the board?
Good evening, Andrea Benning, and I'm speaking as a parent during public comment this evening. I was going over the Milan Education Association Master Agreement, Attachment C, and on page 11 in section 6E, numeration 5, it talks about an effort will be made to have students who are identified under special education rules and regulations assigned to classes based upon the student's needs. When needed, the building administrator, special education supervisor, or special education coordinator and the regular education teachers will review the assignments with the case manager to determine the appropriateness of the placement. Changes in class assignment will only be made with the approval of the administration. This article is not subject to the grievance procedure. So my concern is that nowhere in this listing is parent involvement or parent input, and I realize that this is a teacher master agreement and it's an agreement between the district and the teachers. And I realize that case managers are meant to seek parent input when there is a possible change in placement. But I do have concern that it's not listed really clearly in this agreement, tentative agreement, to seek out parent involvement or parent input in regards to this. And so I don't know if amendments happen or if that's something that is possible or standard in these types of agreements. It's just something that is concerning, considering parents are meant to be part of the special education team, and input is meant to be sought, especially in change of placement. And so that's something that caught my attention that was a concern of mine. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Benning. Yes, Mr. Gearbaugh.
It's important to recognize that that's actually old language that's being removed from the contract. If you look at the top of that page, it says replace, and then at the beginning of the next page, it says with, and you'll notice that that language is not included in the new contract. So we're actually removing that language. Yep.
Any others? All right, thank you. Next up, we have routine matters for approval. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of September 11th, 2024.
Moved by Farrell.
Support by Gutierrez.
So moved and supported to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of September 11th, 2024. Are there any questions, concerns? All right, it's been moved and supported to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of September 11th, 2024. Ms. Heika.
Pryor,
Yes.
Rosenleacher,
Yes.
Sislo,
Yes.
Farrow,
Yes.
Gutierrez,
Yes.
Heika, yes. Motion carries 6-0.
Next up, I need a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting closed session of September 11th, 2024. Ooh, sorry about that.
Motion by Rosenleacher. Support by Pryor.
Sorry about that. It's been moved and supported to approve the minutes of the regular meeting closed session of September 11th, 2024. Are there any concerns? We can pass those in. It's been moved and supported to approve the minutes of the regular meeting closed session of September 11th, 2024. Ms. Heika?
Rosenleacher,
Yes.
Sislo,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Gutierrez,
Yes.
Heika, yes. Pryor,
Yes.
motion carries 6-0.
All right, next up, I need a motion to approve the Milan Area Schools 2024-2025 course offerings as detailed in attachment A.
Motion by Pryor. Support by Rosenleacher.
It's been moved and supported to approve the Milan Area Schools 2024-2025 course offerings as detailed in attachment A. Some of this has to deal with the new course we approved last year. Mr. Gearbaugh? Or last meeting, not last year.
Yep.
Last meeting. Oh my gosh.
This is actually an annual motion that you need to make and approve. It's something that's now required for pupil accounting. Students cannot be counted if they are in classes that have not been board approved. So annually, you have to take this action. Again, some of the items on this document just reference our annual course catalogs that are available, so we don't list every class. But again, this is an action that about 2 years ago became required by the state of Michigan, that all courses that we are counting students in to get funding for have to be board approved. So this will happen every year about this time moving forward, so that we make sure we don't lose any funding.
Any questions or concerns? All right, it's been moved and supported to approve the Milan Area Schools 2024-2025 course offerings as detailed in attachment A. Ms. Heika?
Sislo,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Gutierrez,
Yes.
Heika, yes. Pryor,
Yes.
Rosenleacher,
Yes.
motion carries 6-0.
All right, now we move on to our areas of the strategic plan. First up in finance and operations, Mr. Gearbaugh will give us a 2024 sinking fund millage proposal update, which we've asked for up into the election. Mr. Gearbaugh.
Thank you. The biggest piece of the update that I have this evening is to let folks know that last night we had a very important event. I held a sinking fund community forum in the high school theater. That forum was recorded and is now on the main district website under current topics. It is also available on the Board of Education's YouTube channel, so it can be viewed either way. I think it is important that our community take the time to be educated about the facts and make sure that they understand the purpose of the sinking fund. Again, if you watch the video from last night, I did talk about a couple of things I've heard in the community that have been said, and people who are not fully understanding. And so it is important that you watch and you learn. I am open to any questions. Anybody can call me, email me, contact me if they have questions. We have a 2-page flyer that is out on the website that people can view for information. We're going to be distributing information in a couple of other methods over the next couple of weeks as we approach the election. Our biggest effort is we just want people to be educated and then vote the way that they feel is best. One of the questions that I did field today from a community member was, why do we need a site sinking fund when we just received so much more incoming funding because of the pipeline that went through Milan about 2 years ago? And that's a valid question. I understand that school funding is very difficult sometimes to understand. So I want to clarify, and I did for that person that emailed me, the pipeline did get put in, and it does have personal property tax being charged to it. It's important to understand those taxes do get paid to those local jurisdictions where that pipeline exists, and then they do send that money to Milan area schools. However, our funding is solely based on our pupil count, and we get a certain amount per pupil from the state of Michigan. All of the money that we receive for local taxes like that being collected gets subtracted from the amount that the state owes us. So we didn't get any more money because the pipeline went through the Milan area school district. The state of Michigan gets more money because the taxes are collected, paid to us, and the state says, that's great, now we don't need to send you as much. So there was no influx of dollars into Milan area schools because of the pipeline going through for operational expenses. I will say that the taxes collected on that personal property towards our debt millage that we are paying off does help the district. But again, debt funds live over here and operational funds live over here. So it is helping all of the taxpayers in Milan to have that tax collection coming in because we're paying our debt off quicker. But it does not help the operational budget at all. So again, these are the kinds of things that I love to hear so that I can answer those questions and explain them, because I get that school funding it's pretty intricate. And if you don't live it every day, it's not the easiest thing to understand. So again, if anybody has a community group they would like me to come and speak to, I will gladly come and talk to them. If people just have questions, they can email me or call me. My goal is to get factual information out to as many voters as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gearbaugh. Other questions or comments?
Mr. Sislo?
Yeah, Ms. Gutierrez.
Mr. Gerber, I wasn't able to be at the community forum last night. Can you just tell us a little bit about attendance?
Yes, last night we had one school board member in attendance.
Oh.
No community members.
Okay, thank you.
So hopefully the recording spreads and we get people that will take the time to watch the recording and get themselves educated.
Mr. Sislo?
Yes, Ms. Rosenleacher.
Thank you, Mr. Gearbaugh. Because I was unable to attend last night, I did watch your presentation yesterday, so I wanted to thank you for that. And since we're on that topic, also that you addressed the special education renewal. So I appreciate that you getting that information out to our public too.
Other questions or concerns? All right. Next up, the board can take action in regards to supporting the millage in very defined ways. And one of those ways is we can pass a resolution to support it. So we have a resolution that meets that need, and I'm going to offer that motion right now. Whereas Section 1212 of the School Code of 1976, as amended, authorizes a school district to place the question of authorizing millage for a sinking fund millage at a special election, and Milan area schools, Washtenaw and Monroe counties, Michigan, has placed a question to voters to levy sinking fund millage at an election to be held on Tuesday, November 5th, 2024, and this board desires to express its support for the sinking fund millage proposal. Now therefore be it resolved that this board supports by the submission by Milan area schools, Washtenaw and Monroe counties, Michigan, for a proposal for the levy of 1.5 mils for sinking fund purposes for a period of 10 years, 2025 to 2034 inclusive, to the voters at an election to be held in the school district on Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. All resolutions and parts of resolutions insofar as they conflict with the provisions of this resolution be and the same are hereby rescinded. Do I have a motion? Do I have a support for that motion?
Support by Farrell.
And Heike.
It's been moved and supported to approve the sinking fund millage proposal resolution of support, which I just read. Is there any discussion? All right. It has been moved and supported to approve the sinking fund millage proposal resolution of support as included in attachment B. Ms. Heike.
Farrell,
Yes.
Gutierrez,
Yes.
Heike, yes. Pryor,
Yes.
Rosenleacher,
Yes.
Sislo,
Yes.
motion carries 6-0.
All right, thank you. Next up in the strategic area of learning, environment, and culture, we have our WISD PAC update from Ms. Andrea Bennick.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to update the Milan Board of Education and the community on our recent WISD PAC meeting. PAC met last week, Tuesday, September 17th. We began with an update from the WISD on the attendance for the para boot camp that took place over the summer, and Milan had 15 attendees this year. As was the case last year, all attendees have access to an online continuing learning module for the entire school year through the WISD. This allows our paraeducators to continue to hone their skills with self-directed learning. There's a high likelihood that the para boot camp will continue in the summer of 2025. I know that initially there was funding for the first 2 years, and they're looking into securing funding so that it can continue. The para to teacher training program continues to show success with graduates readily finding employment, and the majority of these program participants remain in Washtenaw County. And our PAC representatives are reporting that districts are able to fill many of the vacancies that occur when our paras move into their teaching careers. PAC continued the meeting with some routine business and following up on topics from last year, including the dyslexia bill that was brought to Lansing, the education budget, and clarifying extended school year and transportation requirements. For the benefit of the community, it's my understanding that if your student qualifies for ESY and transportation services are noted in their IEP, then the district must provide transportation for your student. PAC also clarified with WISD that if a student is being referred or recommended for alternative placement, and part of that process includes observation and data collection, then the home district is responsible for notifying parents that they're requesting WISD observation. The state is implementing least restrictive environment compliance monitoring beginning this academic year. And part of that monitoring process includes gathering parent feedback from the PAC representatives. PAC discussed what this looks like with the input of our WISD administrators so we can be better prepared when that monitoring process takes place. Updates specific to Milan. I met with Lon Smith on the 18th to go over the beginning of the academic year and discuss our PAC meeting. Due to the increased starting pay for our paras, Mr. Smith indicated he had more applicants and new hires than at the same time frame from last year. When we spoke, there were 13 new hires for this year. Thank you to all who worked to increase para pay to better attract and retain our valuable support staff. While the staffing situation is definitely improved from years past, there's still a need for paras to join our district, and it's our hope that those remaining open positions will be filled soon. And I just saw an email go out this afternoon from Mr. Gearbaugh indicating that we are looking to hire more paras. So if you're interested, it's definitely worth looking into. We can absolutely use more support staff. With so many new hires, we talked about how new staff learn about the ins and outs when coming on board in the middle of a school year. Mr. Smith shared that buildings have a lead para who help mentor new paras and that they should be checking in with new hires regularly. Mr. Smith and I also discussed some of the realignment of tiered support in the middle school and what that looks like for students who may need more targeted instruction. One thing I would like to focus on this year, which I mentioned at the last board meeting that I attended, is how to broaden our inclusive goals beyond the classroom. Mr. Smith and I talked about this and what it could look like in practice. At the high school level, we mentioned having our transitions coordinators intentionally discuss and work on goal setting surrounding community participation and extracurricular activities. Often there are groups in which students would be able to participate, but they're unaware of how to get involved. So we discussed how to better communicate what is offered at Milan High School, how our TCs can share that information with families and students, and what supports might need to be put in place to help our students with special needs be successful in the extracurricular setting. At the middle school level, we discussed having a board game club during breakfast or lunch hour with the help of a parent volunteer. This was something that was brought to me from Katie West, the Milan Middle School speech and language therapist. She mentioned that Celine has an Uno club, and I brought the idea to Ms. Bookout, who was receptive to the idea. Mr. Smith was also receptive to this idea as well. I suggested that this club may begin with Uno, but could expand to include a number of other board games based on interest in student ability. This is a fledgling idea, but I wholly support it and look forward to its implementation. Peer-to-peer programs are growing in our buildings, and many staff are participating in the START training available through Grand Valley State University. And while I recognize that programming requires staff and volunteer resources, it is my hope that our community sees the value in inclusive practices, not just in the classroom, but in the relational, social, and recreational activities as well. True inclusion may begin in the education setting, but should extend beyond that so that our community members with disabilities feel like they belong in and are a valued part of Milan. To wrap up, there are a couple of resources that I'll share with the community. The WISD is hosting a Transitions Services Informational Parent Meeting on October 22nd from 9 to 12 at the WISD TLC building in Ann Arbor. You can speak with representatives from local support agencies that provide a variety of support needs from health, employment, recreation, and more. Providers are there to answer questions you may have in making choices for services that are right for your student. There's a developmental disabilities walk happening on October 5th at Wilson Park. On-site registration begins at 1:30, and you can learn more at www.ddherowalk.com. Beginning October 2nd, GVSU is holding START peer-to-peer trainings, which families and staff can participate in. If you use code MAF, those trainings are free. There are 3 modules each for elementary schools and middle and high schools, and these can be found at gvsu.edu. This training also includes continuing ed credits, also known as sketchies, which I was just informed of. But that's open to families. It's not just for educators. It's for parents, families of students with disabilities who may be interested as well. And I have flyers for each of those things that I'll hand to you, Mr. Gearbaugh, so that you can share those out with anybody who may be interested. Thank you for your time this evening. As always, if you have any questions or know of a Milan Area Schools family that needs support or information, I can be reached at AndreaBennink, packrep@gmail.com. Our next PAC meeting is November 19th at 6:30 at the WISD TLC building. PAC meetings are open to the public and we welcome attendance. And please correct me if the information that I shared about ESY or district informant is misunderstood, but
No.
as the way I understood it is how I wanted to report it. So thank you, I appreciate it. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bennick. All right, next up in the area of personnel and leadership, I need a motion to approve the master agreement with the Milan Education Association, MEA, as detailed in attachment C. This approval is contingent upon the Milan Education Association's ratification of the same master agreement.
Moved by Gutierrez.
Support by Farrow.
It's been moved and supported to approve the master agreement with the Milan Education Association, MEA, as detailed in attachment C. This approval is contingent upon the Milan Education Association's ratification of the same master agreement, which I believe has occurred. And Mr. Gearbaugh can provide us an update.
Yes, obviously this year's tentative agreement is a little longer than normal. That's partly because there were a lot of topics that by state law were put back on the table. I do want to thank our MEA for working with us to come up with long-term language that's very mutually agreed upon, that supports numerous topics that were not in previous contracts. So for folks that look at that tentative agreement, it's a little bit longer than normal, but that's because we had several topics we needed to get integrated into the contract that weren't there previously. You are correct in that the union did vote on the contract last Friday, and it passed very heavily. And we're happy with that. We're happy that our staff are happy with the agreement, and I'm excited to wrap this up tonight with the board approval so that we can get everybody's salaries and benefits altered as soon as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Gearbaugh. I also do want to thank the negotiation team from MEA, and I want to thank our board members that participated in the process as well. I know everyone at this table sat down at at least one of those negotiation strategies, so I appreciate people taking the time out of their day in order to do that, as we do understand and know that our teachers are a valuable resource. And I think it's demonstrated by our attendance at those negotiation meetings. For myself, I will be abstaining from this vote for a personal reason.
Mr. Sislo?
Yeah.
I also want to thank the MEA's negotiating team and the MEA participants in general. This was a long process because of the change in the law, and there were some very heartfelt conversations at the sessions that I attended, and so I appreciate that frank discussion. And thank you to Mr. Gearbaugh and his administration team, because while we spent a lot of time with each individual union group, he had to do all of them. So that was a big chunk of his summer, and Mr. McMahon's summer as well. So I truly appreciate them, and I appreciate the MEA coming to the table and working with us to get this done. Oh, and I will be abstaining also due to a personal conflict of interest.
Any others? Ms. Gutierrez.
This was my first negotiation that I participated in, and I really learned a lot, and I really appreciate Mr. Gearba and shepherding us through this. I think there were some new negotiators as well on the MEA side, and I really appreciated the process, how we each came to the table, thinking carefully about the the why of what we were proposing and trying to find mutual solutions to things that were raised on each side. And so I really appreciate my fellow board members and the work that went into that, the creativity that went into that, and the work that the MEA did on their side as well to make sure that we were best supporting our teachers as they are such a vital part of our district. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez. Others? All right, it has been moved and supported to approve the master agreement with the Milan Education Milan Education Association MEA as detailed in attachment C. This approval is contingent upon the Milan Education Association's ratification of the same master agreement. Ms. Heika?
Gutierrez,
Yes.
Heika abstain. Pryor,
Yes.
Rosenleacher,
Yes.
Sislo,
Abstain.
Pharaoh.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Right, next up, I need a motion to approve the Milan Education Association MEA letter of agreement as detailed in attachment D. This approval is contingent upon the Milan Education Association's approval of the same letter of agreement.
Motion by Pryor. Support by Rosenleacher.
It's been moved and supported to approve the Milan Education Association MEA letter of agreement as detailed in attachment D. This approval is contingent upon the Milan Education Association's approval of the same letter of agreement, which I also understand was ratified. Mr. Gearbaum.
Yes, you are correct. The union did support this letter of agreement. It is a letter of agreement to address a concern that was raised last year during the contract. That topic has been addressed in the new contract, so will no longer be an issue. But we did want to wrap up and come to conclusion with some concerns that were raised last year regarding some health insurance premiums. So this agreement resolves that, closes the case, and the new contract has better and more clear language in it so that this will not be an issue moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Gearbaum. Any questions or concerns? All right. It has been moved and supported to approve the Milan Education Association MEA letter of agreement as detailed in attachment D. This approval is contingent upon the Milan Education Association's approval of the same letter of agreement. Ms. Heika.
Heika, I have to abstain due to a personal conflict of interest. Pryor,
Yes.
Rosenleacher,
Yes.
Sislo,
I also abstain due to a personal conflict of interest.
Pharaoh,
Yes.
Gutierrez.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Right. That brings us back to communications and community engagement. Time for public comments. Are there any students who'd like to address the board? Are there any public members who'd like to address the board? All right. Mr. McMahon is excused. Superintendent comments. Mr. Gearbaugh.
Yes, just a couple of things to share this evening. First, I did talk earlier about the community forum that was held last night regarding the site sinking fund and the WISD special education millage. Again, that video is available on our main page or on the Board of Education YouTube page. Also last night, the Milan Area Chamber of Commerce hosted a school board meet the candidate forum. That event lasted about an hour and 45 minutes. The speakers had 10 minutes to answer 5 prepared questions and then answered, I believe, 10 questions that came from the community in the weeks prior using a Google form. All of those answers and all of that last evening's event were recorded, and that as well is posted on the main page of Milan Area Schools under the current topics section. It is also available on the Board of Education YouTube channel. So again, we want our voters to be educated on what they will be voting on the November 5th ballot. So please take time to watch those videos. Our fall athletic teams, again, are competing very well. I highly recommend that you visit MilanBigReds.org for athletic schedules, news, and continuous updates on all of our teams' performances. I do want to announce that Milan boys varsity team clinched at least a share of the Huron League title tonight. The determination as to whether it's a share of the title or an outright holding of the title is dependent upon a game that started a half hour ago between two other teams. And so we won't know until that game is completed whether they are the outright title holder or if they share that title. But again, a huge accomplishment by our Milan varsity boys soccer team. The last thing that I want to talk about is something that has been prevalent on local social media. The district is aware of alleged student misconduct at the homecoming dance. I would like to take some time to provide some factual information. First, regarding the punch served at the dance. Our punch was served out of covered drink dispensing containers with spigots. The cover on the containers have to be screwed off to be filled. The containers were continuously monitored by staff and volunteers the entire night and were never left unattended. The juice was added to containers from sealed gallon containers of juice from the store by the staff monitoring the punch. Numerous staff members consumed the punch on regular intervals throughout the dance and experienced none of the effects being described on social media. Regarding contact from parents and students, at the dance, one student reported that the punch tasted funny. Numerous staff members consumed the punch on regular intervals throughout the dance and experienced none of the effects being described on social media. No other reports were made to staff members during the dance. We were informed of the information posted on social media and immediately began an investigation. We have had 2 parents contact the district directly regarding this matter, and those parents provided hearsay comments from students about the matter and or referenced social media posts as their evidence. I did reach out to one family because I was told by the Detroit media that they had to take their child to the hospital. I spoke with that parent. They have been very helpful. I have maintained contact with that family, and they will be providing me any evidence that comes forward as they continue to progress with their daughter. Regarding our investigation, the district has reviewed the video footage of the punch during the dance. There is no video evidence of any student tampering with the punch. There is no video footage that substantiates any of the claims made on social media about kids stumbling around the dance or passing out in the bushes. These behaviors were also not observed by the chaperones, and nothing was reported to any adults during the dance. The Milan Police Department has been involved in an independent investigation of all of these concerns. Please feel free to contact our Officer Marshall at 439-5019 if you have any further questions regarding his investigation. Some general comments. We do recognize that it is possible that a student brought something to the dance that was shared with other students. It is also possible that students could have put something into individual students' glasses of punch or consumed something on their own prior to the dance, at the dance, or after leaving the dance. Our ability to investigate this type of behavior has been minimized because we have had limited information shared with us from parents, students, and families. In fact, we have at least one parent who has intentionally withheld information from the school district, which hinders our investigation. The district is very interested in getting to the bottom of any inappropriate behavior at the dance and will take disciplinary action against any student who violated school rules and or jeopardized the health of other students. At this time, our investigation and the Milan Police Department's investigation have not substantiated any wrongdoing. The district does not respond to or make comments regarding social media posts. We are taking this matter seriously. We are investigating every report that is brought to our attention. We have and continue to review all of the camera footage of the dance, and I will tell you, with our new camera systems, we have a lot of footage. We have, and like I said, we have and continue to monitor that footage, and as of this point, have seen no abnormal behaviors being displayed at the dance. We have been actively following up on the minimal information that we have been given, and we have no factual evidence of any wrongdoing regarding the punch, and therefore have nothing to alert our parents about at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gearbaugh, and thank you for taking that matter seriously. Board member comments. Ms. Rosenleacher.
Thank you, Mr. Sislo. As a member of this Board of Education, I want to address a concern that impacts not only our staff, but the overall health and culture of our district. We live in a time when social media is an easy and accessible platform to voice frustrations and grievances. However, this often results in harmful public attacks on individuals, especially our dedicated staff, which can be deeply damaging to the trust and relationships that form the foundation of our educational community. It is important that members of our community feel that they can openly express their concerns. I strongly encourage individuals to follow the appropriate channels by contacting the person or department involved. This allows for a constructive conversation, the opportunity to clarify any misunderstandings, and a pathway towards real solutions. Publicly airing grievances on social media often escalates conflict, spreads misinformation, and fosters a climate of mistrust. Falsehoods and exaggerated claims can undermine the valuable work of our educators and staff. Additionally, it can lead to unintended consequences, such as discouraging potential educators from joining or staying in our district and negatively impacting our students' learning environment. I am committed to fostering a community where dialogue is based on respect and understanding. As a district, we provide avenues for voicing concerns through direct communication with teachers, staff, administration, and, when necessary, the Board of Education. These channels exist so that all parties can work together towards resolution. I ask that we hold each other accountable for how we express our concerns. Let's model how to engage in respectful, direct dialogue for our students and each other, ensuring our district remains a supportive and empowering space for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rosenleacher. Others? Mr. Farrow.
First, I want to congratulate the fall sports teams. I want to especially congratulate the soccer team. Obviously, I have a kid that plays soccer on their Huron League championship, so that was very exciting. I also want to thank the MEA and the representatives for their active participation and advocacy as it relates to the new MEA master agreement. I know it was a long process for everyone, and I want to thank my fellow trustees for their hard work and their active participation as well. One of our goals, along with the MEA, is a focus on teacher recruitment and retention, and I feel that the new agreement is a clear step towards that direction. Again, thank you to all. I also wanted to comment on the candidate forum. I want to thank the 4 candidates for participating in last night's forum. For those of you that did not get an opportunity to go to the forum, the video recording of the forum is available on YouTube. I do want to use this time briefly to clarify a few things with respect to the district's budget and the sinking fund measure. First, on the sinking fund, the district proposal is to levy 1.5 mils for 10 years. This means a $1.50 levy per $1,000 of taxable value on all properties located in the Milan School District. As an example, if you own a home in the district with a market value of $200,000, the taxable value on that home is $100,000. That would equate to an annual cost of $150. A property with a market value of $250,000 would have a taxable value of $125,000, and that would equate to an annual cost of $187.50. A property having a market value of $300,000 would have a taxable value of $150,000, and that would come to an annual cost of $225 a year. Last night, it was asserted by one of the candidates running for the school board that property owners could potentially see an increase of $450 annually for 10 years. This is true only for those who may have properties with a market value of $600,000, as the taxable value would be $300,000. If anyone has questions regarding the sinking fund, I encourage you strongly to frequent the district's website or attend future community forums that are specific to the district's sinking fund proposal. Finally, on the district's budget, as Ms. Gutierrez accurately stated last night, the district is not in a deficit position. The budget that was referred to last night was adopted in early June. This was before the district knew with certainty what we would secure per pupil from the state of Michigan. This happens every year across the state because districts are required by state law to produce and approve a budget
in the month of June. For reference, the state of Michigan did not approve their budget, which includes a definitive school funding amount, until the end of July. So I want everyone to be aware that there will be budget adjustments down the road for the Board of Education's review and consideration in the future. The board will also have definitive fiscal year end and financial audit results to work with in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farrow. Other comments?
Mr. Sisel?
Yeah, Ms. Pryor.
I just wanted to say that I think a lot of things in the past few days has overshadowed that our Big Reds did win on Friday, the homecoming game. Very wonderful. It was such a exciting environment. So I wanted to congratulate that team as well. I think it made for a great homecoming game. I also did have a question about student board members, if we would be getting some.
Yep, I'm confirming those with our committee, and then I'll work with Mr. Shin. We will have them identified for the next meeting. Yep.
Thank you. That's all.
Yep, thank you. Others?
Mr.
Yeah, Ms. Heika.
I just want to explain my vote in favor of the site sinking fund. I think Mr. Farrow talked about, how it works in terms of the math, but I also want to remind the community that every dollar that we collect as part of the site sinking fund can offset a dollar that we're currently spending out of our general fund. And so, while we talk a lot about, and we hear a lot from the community that we need to pay our teachers more and we need to pay our parapros more, and everyone I know on this board wholeheartedly agrees with that. But the entire time that I have been on this board, we are constantly balancing the need for replacing boilers and fixing roofs and fixing parking lots and sidewalks and purchasing Chromebooks and purchasing buses and all of those things with the need to pay our teachers and parapros more. If we can free up funds in the general fund by collecting money from the site sinking fund to pay for the buses, to pay for the Chromebooks, to pay for those boilers and roofs, then that's a dollar that we have to pay teachers and parapros. So it's important for that goal that we have all talked about for many, many years now on how we retain and recruit teachers and parapros. It's also important because it makes us competitive with our area districts. We are the only district in Washtenaw County that does not have a site sinking fund. When you go to local districts and you see their facilities and you wonder why we don't have facilities that look similarly, it's because of their site sinking fund. They have more money to spend on those things. And those are things that parents look at when they are looking for which community they're going to move to and which community they may send their kids to as a matter of school of choice. So those things are important to make us competitive, as well as competitive wages for our parapros and our teachers. There also seemed to be some concern expressed lately about the site sinking fund being used to almost recruit athletes to come in, and that's not what this is about. The reality here is that any student who comes to Milan through schools of choice brings with them their foundational allowance that we get from the state. So that money, as Mr. Gearbaugh explained earlier, comes from the state. All of our tax dollars go back to the state and they redistribute it to us. If you are a student who lives in Lincoln or in Ypsi or Dexter or Saline, they do have Dexter and Saline kids who come here. They bring their foundational allowance with them. That becomes part of our general fund. So I just want to make sure everyone understands how that school of choice piece works. I also want to thank all of our staff that worked very hard to put on that homecoming dance and worked very hard to chaperone the dance. Those staff members gave up their personal time. They don't get paid for that. They give up their personal time with their families, time with their own children, to be here to provide an experience for our children. And to see the way that those staff members were harpooned on Facebook was just very disappointing. Our staff gives their heart and soul to all of our students. They really do. And you really saw it as part of our negotiations with the MEA. I mean, every discussion we had came back to how does that help our students? Everyone, even when we're talking about pay for our teachers, how does that help our students? And so I just want to thank all of our staff and let them know that I trust them and I believe that they acted appropriately and that they managed, the entire situation and the dance appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Laika. Others? All right. I don't have any comments at this time. The meeting is adjourned at 7:46. Drive home safely.